He walked quietly across the lobby, head bowed low, pushing the janitor's cart as if apologizing just for existing in a skyscraper built of glass and ambition. In this tower where million-dollar contracts were signed behind soundproof doors, there was a man nobody noticed, a black man invisible in a world of brilliance. And yet it was him, Noah Carter, who did the impossible. Because the little girl everyone in the building feared, the daughter of billionaire Camille Hartman, was untouchable. That girl, Lionel Hartman, had once been the smile of the entire empire. Now there was only silence. 8 nannies had come and gone. Therapists had given up. She screamed when treated with kindness, cried when anyone touched her, and locked her heart behind invisible walls. Until one seemingly ordinary afternoon, Noah was mopping the marble floor near the elevators when he heard a soft sob behind a column. He stopped, set the mop aside, and walked closer. Then he knelt down slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break something fragile. From the pocket of his shirt, he took out a small object, something that looked ordinary, but somehow made the whole world stand still. And then miraculously, the girl stopped crying. On the 30th floor of Hartman Innovations in the heart of New York City, the glass walls reflected the light of the entire city below. Camille Hartman stood motionless, her rich brown fingers trembling as they touched the edge of her laptop. Her natural hair, usually styled in an elegant twist, was pulled back simply today, revealing the exhaustion in her dark eyes. On the screen was the 9th psychological report about her daughter. Lionel. Patient completely rejects strangers, severe PTSD symptoms. No response to therapy, psychiatric intervention recommended. Camille slowly closed the laptop. Not again. At 41, the CEO of a $3.2 billion biotech empire, a black woman who had shattered every glass ceiling, now stood powerless before a 7-year-old child. Since the day Daniel Hartman, her husband, died in a plane crash 3 months ago, Lionel had become a shadow of herself. Those eyes, only 7 years old, carried a hollowness most adults would never dare to face. 3 months earlier, Lionel had been the light of this office. She ran in holding a drawing. "Mom, look. I drew us, you, Daddy, and me." Daniel laughed, his deep voice filling the room as he lifted his daughter. "Do you know your mom is the smartest woman in the world?" "I know," Lionel giggled, her brown curls bouncing. "But Daddy's the best." Now only the hum of the air conditioner remained. Camille opened the special room designed for Lionel. In the far corner, Lionel sat curled up, her beautiful brown skin looking almost gray in the dim light, clutching an old doll, the last gift from her father. "Lionel, sweetheart." Camille knelt down. "Today we're going to meet a new doctor." "No." The scream tore through the room. "I don't want any doctors. I want Daddy back." The doll flew across the room. Camille froze, her hands trembling. A woman who could run a global empire didn't know how to hold her own daughter. For 3 months she had tried everything. 8 nannies quit. 9 therapists failed. Every professional wrote the same line. This child needs time or a miracle. But Camille Hartman no longer believed in miracles. 6 a.m. The old apartment in Brooklyn lay shrouded in darkness. Noah Carter shut off the alarm and sat up. 38 years old, but he looked at least 10 years older. Silver streaks touched both temples of his close-cropped hair. His deep brown eyes held lines etched by sleepless nights. He walked into the next room where photos were taped to the wall. Pictures of a little black boy with bright eyes and a missing front tooth, Micah. Noah stood still. Every morning he stopped before the largest photo of Micah smiling and hugging a stuffed dog. "Good night, my little boy," he whispered, even though the sun was rising. Then he quietly closed the door, carrying that familiar weight in his chest. 6 years earlier, the small apartment had been full of laughter. "Daddy, look. I built a castle." 5-year-old Micah sat surrounded by Lego bricks. Noah knelt down, smiling. "It's beautiful. My boy's a genius architect. Then I'll build a castle for you to live in." "For me? Why is that?" "Because you deserve it. You're the best dad in the world." He didn't know it would be the last time he heard that laugh. Now in the packed subway car, Noah sat silently wearing his navy blue janitor uniform. He opened his worn canvas bag. Inside was a cloth pouch containing his whole world. Handmade toys, a patched teddy bear, a felt rabbit, a tiny wooden car. Once Noah had been a preschool teacher. He was married to Grace Carter, a nurse. They had Micah, and though life was modest, their little home overflowed with laughter. Each night, Noah would tell Micah bedtime stories. Once upon a time there was a rabbit who couldn't hop, but he didn't give up. He practiced every day. And one day he jumped higher than all the rest. Micah tilted his head. "Dad, why didn't the rabbit give up?" "Because he knew that what makes us special isn't what we're good at. It's that we never give up." He didn't know that was the last night he'd ever tell Micah a story. The accident happened on a fall afternoon. Grace was driving Micah home from school when a truck lost control. It was a devastating crash. Grace survived, Micah didn't. Noah got the call while teaching. He ran to the hospital, his heart pounding. When the doctor stepped out, one look told him everything. Noah collapsed to the floor. Grace never forgave herself. "It's my fault. I killed our son." "No, gracie. It was an accident. I should have died instead." 6 months later, he woke to find a letter. "Dear Noah, I can't live with this pain anymore. I'm sorry. I love you, but I have to go." Grace left and never came back. He lost his son, then his wife, and after that he slowly began to lose himself. He couldn't return to teaching. He quit. In the years that followed, Noah did everything. Waiter, driver, mover, whatever paid the bills until he found a job at Clean Core, a janitorial company. "Why do you want this job?" the manager asked. "Because no one notices the janitor, and I don't want to be seen anymore." But there was one thing Noah never gave up. Every night he sat alone stitching scraps of fabric and carving bits of wood, making toys the way he once did for Micah. Maybe because when those little things took shape, he felt Micah was still there. Wednesday afternoon, the Hartman Innovations building shimmered under the fading sunlight. Noah had been working there for 2 months, quietly mopping floors and emptying trash cans. No one called him by name, they just knew him as the janitor on the 30th floor. But Noah noticed the small things. He noticed the little black girl who always sat alone in the executive hallway clutching a worn-out doll. She didn't look at anyone, didn't speak. Those eyes, Noah recognized them instantly. They were the eyes of a child who had lost a piece of her soul, the same look Micah had. Thursday afternoon. Noah was mopping the marble floor when he heard it. A faint sob buried beneath the air conditioner's hum. He froze and listened. The sound came from behind the last marble column, a hidden corner with no security cameras. He hesitated, but that cry pulled something deep inside him. Memories of Micah trembling through nightmares flooded back. Before he realized it, Noah's feet were moving toward the sound. Behind the column, Lionel Hartman sat curled up, face buried in her arms. Her small body shook. Noah stopped, keeping a respectful distance. He said nothing. Then slowly he knelt. Lionel didn't look up, but her breathing changed. She could feel someone there. Noah stayed quiet. He simply sat beside her, motionless. A gentle stillness filled the space between them. He reached into his pocket and took out a small teddy bear. He had sewn it the night before. Faded brown, clumsy stitches, 2 button eyes, shiny yet sad. Noah placed the bear on the floor halfway between them. No words, no gestures, just presence. Time seemed to stop. Lionel slowly lifted her head. Her eyes were swollen. She looked at the bear, then at the quiet man. Noah didn't smile, he simply nodded once gently. The girl reached out, trembling, and touched the bear. Then she hugged it tight. The fabric was soft and warm, and for the first time in 3 months Lionel stopped crying. Not because someone told her to stop, but because at last she felt allowed. Allowed to be weak, to hurt without being judged. Noah stayed there silent. After 5 minutes, he quietly stood, picked up his mop, and walked away. Up on the 30th floor, Camille Hartman stared at the security footage. The image of a black man in a blue uniform kneeling beside her daughter, placing a clumsy little teddy bear on the floor, made her chest tighten painfully. Tears streamed down her face. She had just witnessed a miracle. And the man who performed it was someone no one had noticed for 2 months. The next morning, Camille arrived early. She grabbed the phone. "I need information on the janitor from the 30th floor. Male, mid-30s to 40s, brown complexion. You must mean Noah Carter. He's with Clean Core. I want his file now." An hour later, the file appeared. Name Noah Carter, 38. Education: Bachelor's in Early Childhood Education. Previous occupation: Preschool teacher, 2012-2018. Reason for leaving, not specified. Current job, janitor, 2020-present. A preschool teacher turned janitor. Something didn't add up. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Liana, the child who hadn't left her room in 3 months, opened the door and walked out. She simply held her teddy bear and walked down the stairs one slow step at a time. In the downstairs lounge, Noah was wiping the coffee tables. Liana stood about 5 meters away, hugging the bear tightly. Noah turned around. Their eyes met. Then Liana walked closer and sat down on the floor 3 steps away. Noah said nothing. He kept cleaning. 5 minutes later, he sat down. From his pocket, he took out a plastic bottle cap and placed it gently between them. Once upon a time, there was a tiny bottle cap. Everyone threw it away because they thought it had no value. But the cap knew a secret. Liana's eyes widened. "What secret?" she whispered, her voice shaky. Noah looked up surprised. It was the first time he'd heard her speak. He smiled softly. The cap knew that its worth wasn't about how others saw it, but how it saw itself. Was the cap sad? Noah paused. He took a slow breath and nodded. Yes, very sad. But then it met a friend. And that friend showed it that being sad doesn't mean you're weak. Are you sad too? He smiled faintly. I used to be very sad and sometimes I still am. Why? Because I lost someone very important. She looked up, whispering. I lost my dad too. Noah's heart clenched. I know, and I'm so sorry. Then they sat there in silence. 2 souls, one man who had lost his child and one little girl who had lost her father, sat side by side, sharing their pain in quiet understanding. Up on the 30th floor, Camille watched the security feed, tears streaming. Her daughter was talking for the first time in 3 months. 3 days later, the investigative report landed on Camille's desk. Noah Carter married to Grace Carter, 2013. One son, Micah Carter. October 15, 2018. Severe traffic collision. Grace survived. Micah, age 5, died 3 hours later. Noah requested indefinite leave. Never returned to teaching. Grace admitted twice for major depression and suicidal intent. April 2019, she left home. Noah relocated to Brooklyn, living alone. Camille covered her mouth, tears welling. Now she understood. Noah wasn't just a man who happened to help Liana. He was a father trying to save another child because he couldn't save his own. That afternoon, Camille summoned Noah to her office. Sit down, she said softly. He sat, hands folded stiffly. Camille slid the folder across the desk. I know about Micah. Noah froze. She continued. I'm sorry. No father deserves to endure that. Noah said nothing. Camille took a breath. I lost my husband 3 months ago. Plane crash. Liana and I were waiting at the airport. Then the phone rang. No survivors. Noah looked up. I'm so sorry, he said quietly. Thank you. But I understand your pain, and I think you understand Liana's. Noah's voice grew low. She feels like part of her died, and nothing can fill that space. Camille nodded, tears shimmering. Yes, but you did what no one else could. You made her feel allowed to hurt, to cry, to remember. Noah exhaled slowly. That's all I ever wished someone had told me after Micah died. Everyone said, be strong. Move on. But I didn't want to move on. I wanted to grieve. I wanted to remember him. Camille wiped her eyes. You still make toys for Micah, don't you? Noah looked surprised. How do you know? I noticed. Every toy you've given Liana is handmade, sewn with care. Noah smiled faintly. Yes, I make one every night so I can feel like he's still here. And now you give them to Liana. Maybe that's what Micah would want. Maybe that's how he still helps other children through me. Camille stood and walked to the window. Noah, I'd like to ask you something for my daughter. Noah looked up. What is it? Stay. Not as a janitor, but as Liana's friend, someone she can trust. He hesitated. But I'm not a therapist. I have no credentials. You have something no degree can teach. Heart and understanding. Noah sat in silence. Then he nodded. I'll stay, but on one condition. What condition? I don't want Liana to think I'm replacing her father. I'm just a friend, someone who listens. Camille smiled softly. That's exactly what I want, too. Noah stood and extended his hand. Camille took it. It was not the handshake of a CEO and employee, but of two people learning to live again after loss. Rumors spread through Hartman Innovations like wildfire. The CEO hired a janitor to care for her daughter. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. Margot Lynn, a senior board member, stood up. Camille, this decision is incomprehensible. Mr. Carter has no certification. If anything goes wrong, this company faces serious liability. Camille's tone stayed calm. He helped my daughter.
Henry cho Interjet.
Are you aware he lost a child? That could influence how he interacts with Lionel. Camille rose, her voice sharp as steel. I know exactly what happened to him, and that's precisely why he understands my daughter better than anyone. A few others started to speak, but Camille cut them off. That's enough. This is my decision. Anyone who disagrees is free to leave. Silence fell. Margot sighed. Camille, you're acting out of emotion, not logic. Camille met her gaze. Emotion? For 3 months, my daughter hasn't spoken. All your experts have failed. Yet one man, no title, no degree made her smile. So don't talk to me about logic. Logic can't save my child. No one said another word. A week later, the storm hit. The front page screamed, Billionaire Camille Hartman hires janitor to care for daughter. Scandal or desperation? Within hours, social media exploded. Supporters wrote, she's just a mother trying to save her child. You don't need a degree to heal. You need heart. Critics fired back. This is a scandal. That man could be dangerous. 3 days later, the NYPD received an anonymous complaint. That afternoon, 2 police officers arrived. Noah was in the cafe with Lionel telling a story when a firm voice sounded, Mr. Noah Carter. He turned. Yes. We need to speak with you. Lionel startled. Who are they, Uncle Noah? Noah knelt. It's all right, sweetheart. They just want to ask questions. But panic flashed across her face. She clutched his hand. No, they'll take you away just like they took my dad. The cafe fell silent. The officers stepped closer. Sir, you'll need to come with us. Another voice rang out, strong and commanding. What's going on here? Camille Hartman. Mrs. Hartman, we received a complaint. Complaint about what? That's confidential. Camille stepped forward. Mr. Carter works for me. If you want to ask questions, you'll go through our legal team. Ma'am, we're just doing our job. And I'm doing mine protecting my employee. Without a court order, you have no right to take him. A tense silence followed. Finally, one officer murmured, We'll be back. They left. That night, Noah went to Camille's office. I think I should leave. I'm causing trouble for you and for Lionel. You're helping her. That's all that matters. Noah shook his head. They won't stop, Camille. They'll dig into my past. And when they do, they'll turn me into a monster. Camille stepped closer. Then we'll fight. I don't want to fight. I just want Lionel to be safe. She won't be safe if you walk away. You know that. Noah said nothing. And in that quiet moment he understood. Leaving was no longer an option. It was a Thursday night. Camille was in her office. The clock read 10 p.m. Her phone rang. Mrs. Hartman. Lionel, she's gone. Camille froze. What did you just say? She was in her room. I went to the kitchen a few minutes. When I came back, she's gone. Camille called Noah immediately. Lionel's missing. Noah slammed the brakes. How long? About 30 minutes. Was she carrying anything? Just her teddy bear and sketchbook. He already knew where she was. The old Hartman Innovations headquarters, the building where Daniel once worked. Long ago, Lionel had asked, Uncle Noah, where did my dad used to work? At the old building near Mapleview Park. I want to go there someday. That's where his memories are, right? He sped through the quiet streets. The old tower appeared, its rusted sign reading Hartman Innovations. He slipped in through the side door. Lionel, where are you? No answer, only his echo. He climbed 3rd floor 4th. Then on the 5th, Daniel's old office. He saw a faint glow beneath the door. Noah pushed it open. In the corner, Lionel sat curled up, clutching her teddy bear, her cheeks streaked with tears. Lionel. She looked up. Uncle Noah. He ran to her and pulled her into his arms. You scared me half to death. Why did you run away? Through sobs, she whispered. I just wanted to find my dad. You came here to find him? Lionel nodded. This is where he worked. I thought if I came here, I'd feel closer to him. Noah held her tighter. But you know he's not here anymore. But I miss him so much. I want to hear his voice again. I don't want to forget him, Uncle Noah. Noah lifted her chin gently. You'll never forget him. He's in you every single day. But what if I forget what he looks like? Noah smiled faintly. Then look in the mirror. You have his eyes, his smile, and his heart. Every time you see yourself, he's right there looking back at you. Lionel burst into tears, wrapping her arms around him. But I want him here. Noah held her close. I know. I want my son here too. Every single day, the sound of heels echoed down the hallway. Camille appeared, flanked by security. The moment she saw Lionel in Noah's arms, she raised a hand. Stop. Everyone froze. Lionel. The little girl turned. Mom. Camille rushed forward and held her tight. You scared me to death, sweetheart.
I'm sorry, Mom.
I just wanted to find Dad. Tears spilled down Camille's cheeks. I know, baby. I've been looking for him too every single day. Lionel looked up. But I don't have Dad anymore. I only have Mom and Uncle Noah. Camille looked at Noah, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for finding her. Noah shook his head. I didn't find her, ma'am. She found me from the very beginning. After that night, Camille knew she couldn't stay silent. She called a press conference. That morning, before hundreds of reporters, the CEO of Hartman Innovations stepped up to the podium. My name is Camille Hartman, and today I want to talk about my daughter. The room fell silent. 3 months ago, I lost my husband and my daughter lost her father. I tried everything to help Lionel. Hired the best specialists. Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nothing worked until I met Noah Carter. She paused. He's not a doctor. He's not a therapist. He's simply someone who's felt the same pain my daughter feels. And there are things no classroom can teach. A reporter raised a hand. Mrs. Hartman, aren't you worried about your daughter's safety? Camille's voice was unwavering. My daughter is safer than she's ever been. Not because he has a certificate, but because he has a heart. And if this world keeps valuing credentials over compassion, maybe we're the ones who need healing. The room stayed frozen. Only the clicking of cameras remained. 1 week later, Camille announced a new initiative. Micah's Hope, a free program for children coping with grief, trauma, or loss. She asked Noah to lead it. I'm not a leader, he said. You're the only one who can do this. You understand these kids. Noah finally agreed. But it has to be called Micah's Hope, so my son can still be part of it. Camille nodded. Agreed. A month later, Micah's Hope opened. No glass conference rooms, just a warm, cozy space, thick rugs, golden light, and shelves filled with handmade toys. On the main wall hung a photo of Micah, smiling wide, his front tooth missing. Beneath it, the words, "Sometimes the brightest light comes from the smallest hearts." During the first week, 3 children showed up. A 6-year-old boy who'd lost his mother. An 8-year-old girl caught between divorced parents. A 9-year-old boy bullied at school. Noah sat with them. He didn't teach, he simply listened. Then he told a story. Once upon a time there was a little star. It wasn't as bright as the others, so it thought it was useless. But one night, a lost child wandered into the forest, and the star's faint light was enough to guide the child home. From that night on, the star realized, our worth isn't measured by how brightly we shine, but by who we shine for. The children listened, eyes wide, breath still. And in the corner, Lionel sat beside a new girl, holding her hand. It's okay, Lionel whispered. Mr. Noah will help you. He helped me too. That evening, after the children had gone, Noah and Camille stayed behind. Camille looked at Micah's picture. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? Staying. Opening up again. Noah was silent. No. At first, I thought I didn't deserve to be happy again. But Lionel taught me something. That loving again doesn't mean forgetting. Camille nodded, smiling through tears. I've learned that too from you. I didn't do anything. You did, Camille whispered. You showed me that strength isn't about never falling apart. It's about getting back up and helping someone else stand with you. Saturday evening. Noah stopped by Camille and Lionna's home, a small warm apartment in Brooklyn. Lionna opened the door beaming. "Uncle Noah, you're here." She tugged him to the kitchen where the table was set with pasta, salad, and toasted bread. "I made it myself," she declared. "You did? It smells amazing." During dinner, Lionna talked excitedly. "A new boy came today. He was really sad. But when Uncle Noah told his story, he smiled." Camille looked at Noah. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving my daughter back to me." Noah shook his head. "No, ma'am. She was never lost. I just helped you see her again." After dinner, Lionna pulled Noah into her room. She pointed to a drawing on the wall. Four figures stood together: Daniel, Camille, Lionna, and Noah. Beside Noah stood a small boy holding his hand. "That's Micah," Lionna said with a shy smile. "I drew him here so he wouldn't feel lonely." Noah went still. He knelt and hugged her tight, tears streaming, but this time they weren't from grief. They were gratitude. "Thank you, Lionna. Thank you so much." 1 year later, Micah's hope had grown into 10 centers across the city, reaching more than 200 children. At the anniversary celebration, Noah was invited to speak. "I'm not a great speaker," he began. "I'm just a father who once lost his child." The hall fell still. 6 years ago, I lost Micah, my son 5 years old, in a car accident. At that time, I thought that was the end. His eyes drifted to the front row where Lionna sat beside Camille, beaming. "But then, a little girl showed me that love never really ends. It only changes form. Micah isn't here anymore. But he lives in every story I tell, in every child I help." His voice broke. "And that's why Micah's hope isn't just for children who are hurting. It's for the grown-ups too. The ones who've forgotten that we can still love, even after our hearts have been broken." The whole room rose to its feet. Applause thundered. Lionna ran onto the stage, throwing her arms around him. "I love you, Uncle Noah." He hugged her tightly. "I love you too, Lionna." After the ceremony, Camille and Noah stood on the rooftop terrace looking out over New York. "Can you believe it?" Camille said. "A year ago, I was a desperate mother, and you were the invisible man." Noah smiled. "And now," she turned to him, "now we're a family." "A family." Camille nodded. "Lionna sees you as her second father, and I see you as a friend, a brother, a piece of our lives I didn't know we needed." Noah looked at her for a long time, then nodded. "I want that too. I'm just afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of losing again." Camille squeezed his hand. "Then we'll be afraid together. And healed together." For the first time in 6 years, Noah's heart no longer felt empty. Sunday morning, Mapleview Park. Lionna was on the swing set, Camille pushing her. Noah sat on a nearby bench, smiling. Beside him lay a photo album, pictures of Micah, pictures of Lionna, and one photo of all three together. Not a traditional family, but one built from love, not replacement, but continuation. "Uncle Noah, come push me," Lionna called. He laughed. "All right, princess. Your turn." Laughter filled the morning air. Camille watched them, tears falling not of sorrow but of joy. Sometimes miracles don't come from experts. They come from ordinary people. People who understand pain because they've lived it. Noah Carter wasn't a hero. He was simply a father who lost his son. But through that loss he found another child. Not to replace Micah, but to honor him. And Lionna, the girl no one could reach, now runs, laughs, and lives. Because someone saw her, sat beside her, and didn't try to fix her. He simply stayed quiet, patient, loving. That's the real miracle. Not healing completely, but learning to live with the wound together. Today, Micah's Hope operates in more than 30 cities, helping over 5,000 children and families. The sun dipped low over the park. Lionna's laughter echoed as the swing rose higher while Noah and Camille sat side by side, silent, peaceful. The story ends, but the healing continues. Because within each of us there is a Micah's hope. A small flicker that may lose its way but still has the power to guide someone home.